My name is John McKeon, and I'm the moderator of the Teradata Primo River community, Teradata Primo's largest customer community. You can connect with us at teradataRiver2.com. Today, we'd like to welcome Dean Furness, business systems consultant at Wells Fargo. Wells Fargo is the fourth largest bank in the U.S. by assets and the largest bank by market capitalization. Second largest in deposits. It's a big bank, about almost $90 billion. Dean, welcome to the River.
Thank you.
Dean will be presenting at this year's Partners Conference on facilitating business decisions with data. Dean, this is a tough culture change to move to actually facilitate business decisions. A lot of times it's an issue between how IT sees the world and business sees the world. Tell us how the evolution has occurred when you're trying to facilitate business decisions with a very technical data environment.
Yeah, and you're right. And it is challenging, but at the same time, there's a lot of upside to it. And we'd like to think that with that approach, we are really starting to change the game, maybe not in the marketplace quite yet, but certainly internally. The legacy ways of delivering information have been very tabular based, and while we have the nice graphics and all the scorecards and dashboards and a lot of those ideals that are a part of the technology landscape today, it's really not anything new in terms of the concept. The real question is can we have our user community understand how they can look at the data more efficiently and how we can make the data speak to them as opposed to simply scanning through 70 or 80 pages of a report to find one number that they care about. So the upside's incredible, and it's really on two sides. I mean, the business can get the answer they want much quicker, provided that we have a better relationship with them and we focus on the business-first methodology of putting the data together. And honestly, in the IT side, we should be able to develop much quicker as well since we are very focused on what we need to deliver.
Yeah, Dean, you'll be talking about agile BI development and still some waterfall stuff, but what happens, how does the culture change when you actually say, so you want what data, and so what are you going to do with this data?
Right. The culture change is something that has been happening for us without the business community really knowing that it's going on. The business community tends to speak in terms of pivot, drill down, dashboard, chart, in basic words, when in fact they may be meaning something different. The simple definition of I need a KPI to do something or I have a metric to do something. All of those conversations have been left for us on the IT side to try to translate into what the user really meant. Did they really mean drill down, or do they mean simply expand and collapse type functionality? What interactivity do they really need? All those sorts of things. And when we start asking the questions a little differently, and we ask the business teams that are giving the requirements to not speak to us in terms of technology, we can really get into the actions that they're looking for and eliminate a lot of the data points that they thought they needed that really weren't there. And really a common one is real-time data. We need real-time data. We hear that from the business community all the time. But a lot of times real-time data in their mind is something that was loaded last night. It's not straight out of the operational systems as immediately updated.
So, Dean, how does this affect the ongoing challenge of all these rogue databases popping up on businesses' desktop? How are you addressing that issue?
Yeah, and this is where Teradata becomes so important for us, and the Microsoft stack on top of it. We, like many large organizations, have our fair share of Excel spreadsheets and Access databases. Any large company is going to have that. And it's not necessarily a negative thing, right? An analyst is a very powerful person in your organization. And if we can find a way to get the analyst back to analyzing rather than copying and pasting data into Excel, the better off we're going to be. What that means is if we create a shared, common, trusted data source, in this case on Teradata, and we're able to go through the very large effort of mapping those details together, we feel that it simply then becomes a way to train people how to use those tools more efficiently. Excel is a wonderful tool, but it causes trouble if you copy millions of rows of data into the Excel spreadsheet. So now we can start training users and saying, no, don't copy it in. Go connect to this data store. Let me show you how Excel connects to it. Let me show you how there's no data that is resident in the Excel spreadsheet at that point. And that way we're all working off the same numbers. It's not the number of Excel spreadsheets that's the problem. It's the how we're using Excel that becomes the problem.
That's a good point. Dean, what about downstream? Is this reducing the real tedious work on moving data fields?
Well, ETL is always going to be fun. The nice part about what happens downstream is that along with this work, we're creating those metadata layers so that people can look up the definition of the information as well as look at the lineage of where it came from. And we found that most people duplicate and modify and move data because they may not know where it came from to begin with. They begin to trust a particular data set more than another, and they always go back to that particular data set to continually pull their stuff together. So the big part about it is that if they trust that data, they'll be less apt to move it and massage it. They'll simply begin to use it as it exists. And that's where the power of the IT team comes in. We don't expect a business user to use a lookup function in Excel to create a miniature database. If we can get a relationship with that business community in a much more solid scenario, we should be able to anticipate their needs and pull that data through in the ETL and the processing so it's ready each morning when they're there, as opposed to waiting for them to calculate it on their own and losing sight of the business rules that may exist elsewhere in the company.
Yeah. Great points. Dean Furness, business systems consultant at Wells Fargo. He is speaking at Partners on facilitating business decisions with data. Should be a great talk on business and IT working well together. Dean, we look forward to your session.
Thank you. We're excited. We'll see you all there.